Okay, in that set, we started with Monday the 29th. Lust for Life, Iggy's second solo album, was released on that day in 1977, and we seen Lust for Life. And Elizabeth Fraser of the Cocteau Twins and This Mortal Coil turned 59, and we seen the Cocteau Twins doing Carolyn's Fingers. Also on the 29th, Anton Newcombe of the Brian Jonestown Massacre turned 55. And 45 years ago that day, Split Enz released, I believe it was their first album, I'm not positive though, Drizrhythmia, which brings us to Tuesday the 30th. On that day in 1988, Danzig released his self-titled album, and we seen She Rides off that album. Also on that day, Lars Fredriksson of Rancid turned 51, and we seen Rancid doing Ruby Soho. Wednesday the 31st, Rudolf Schenker, guitar player and founder of the Scorpions, turned 74. Glenn Tilbrook, the singer and guitar player of Squeeze, he turned 65, it appears. And we seen Squeeze doing Up the Junction. Gina Schuck, drummer of the Go-Go's, also turned 65 on the 30th. And Debbie Gibson, one of my longtime crushes, turned 52. And that takes us to Thursday the 1st. Barry Gibb turned 76. Gloria Estefan turned 65. And Bruce Foxton, the bass player of the Jam, turned 67. And we seen the Jam doing That's Entertainment. Friday the 2nd, Fritz McIntyre, the keyboard player for Simply Red, would have been 64. He died in 2021 at 62. And that takes us to Saturday the 3rd. Doug Pinnick, bass player for King's X, turned 72. And Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols turned 67. And I said earlier in the Cult Classics that we'd be seeing the Sex Pistols, but the Steve Jones clip from the Rock and Roll Swindle, Lonely Boy, that clip wasn't available on YouTube, and Lonely Boy had all footage of Sydney. It almost looked like the My Way video, and they put Lonely Boy over it. Anyways, everything blew, so I ended up going for his band, him and Cookie, the drummer from the Sex Pistols, formed in the 80s, 81 to be exact, the Professionals, and they did join the Professionals. And today's story, I had a friend that I recorded with that used to live in Bay City, and he'd come in my restaurant all the time, who was a limo driver in Chicago, and he was driving the Professionals around in a limo, Cookie and Jones, and got in a wreck. That's today's inside story. And Sunday the 4th, that brings us to Martin Chambers, drummer for the Pretenders, turned 71. Blackie Lawless turned 66, and Beyonce turned 41. And thus ends musical history and birthdays for the week. And on to our last set.